Hi guys, welcome back to the Tech Committee's Web Development and Front-End Programming series. This video is the second video of my series in which we'll be furthering our HTML skills that we learned last time. So I just wanted to give a quick recap of the last video. Um, I had you guys download a couple things that we were going to use as our development tools, and that included Atom and Google Chrome. I had you download Google Chrome because it has that super handy developer view and allows you to inspect and play with the HTML and CSS of websites, which we actually used to tap into the BWib website heading momentarily. Um, and Atom is the text editor that we were using. This was where we created our HTML file and where we will be creating our files in this video as well. If you're planning on coding along this time, we will be using them both again in this video. And then in terms of the HTML that we covered last time, well, we learned what HTML even is, and that it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Um, if you recall, HTML is the language that gives websites their structure and what some refer to as the bare bones of the site. We learned that it's a language consisting of tags, which are the keywords within the web page that defines how your web browser displays the content. Where web browsers are, just a refresher, they are things like Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, anything that you view the web in. Um, so tags basically correspond to the HTML elements of the page. Some that we covered were the head, body, and paragraph tags. We also talked about the HTML boilerplate, which is basically the template of an HTML file. We learned how to easily access it by typing in HTML and hitting enter within our file when we are in Atom. And we're able to do this because of those packages that we downloaded in Atom. The boilerplate includes the major divisions, the head and the body of the HTML page. If any of this is sounding fuzzy, also, it's in the slides from last week, which should be uploaded in the drive, and we'll also be getting a lot more experience with the boilerplate and tags and HTML in general in the video today. So hopefully everything will become slightly more clear, if not way more clear. And lastly, we created our first basic HTML file and we opened it within Google Chrome. And this was the Hello Challenge that I encouraged you guys to code along with me. If you recall, we introduced ourselves within a paragraph tag in our index.html file, and we observed that within Chrome. So that's a recap from last time. And in today's video, we're going to be working on creating and publishing the project that I proposed we work on in the last video. And here's the slide that I proposed the project with. And it was to create a how-to website. My thought process was we're all doing a bunch of activities such as baking or crafts with all this extra free time on our hands. And I thought it could be kind of fun to make a how-to website detailing the steps of one of your favorite activities. I've been doing a ton of baking personally during quarantine, so mine's going to be a how to make banana bread website, but just choose any activity that you wish. Ideally, this activity will require supplies and a step-like procedure because we'll be adding that into our website. If you don't have one in mind or your recipe slash instructions aren't ready off the top of your head, maybe pause the video and gather those ideas just so it's easier to code along. But of course, you can always pause it whenever you need. So before we get started, actually, I just wanted to give credit where due and acknowledge once again that I learned these skills from Angela Yu's Complete 2020 Web Development Bootcamp, which is available on Udemy, in which I highly recommend. It's such a great course. But yeah, I got inspiration for this project idea from her personal site project that she goes over in her boot camp. So just wanted to say that beforehand. And then, okay, let's get started on this website. I'm going to navigate over to Atom now. So now that we are in Atom, we need to create a project folder to store all of our work in. So I'm going to add to File, Add Project Folder. And on my desktop, I have this BWib Web Dev workshop folder that I have included our projects in. So I'm gonna create a new folder and call it our how to site and open that. Remember, you can store these folders wherever you like and call them whatever you like. I just recommend doing whatever you feel keeps you the most organized and works best with your computer. So just like in the last video, let's go ahead and create our index.html file. So we're gonna right click on the folder, click on new file, and then enter the file name index.html and hit enter. So now you should see this file opened up. And just a refresher, the name index.html is just by convention what the files are called. So let's add in our boilerplate like we did last time as well. I'm just going to type in HTML and hit enter. And now I have the boilerplate. We can see again that we have our main two sections, the head and the body. Remember, the most important thing to note about the head is that it contains the title of the document, which is what is displayed on the tab when it's open on your browser. And then also it's important to remember that all of the content of the website goes within the body tags. So within the head tags is basically the metadata of the website. So it's kind of like data about data. Most of it does not get displayed, where in the body, that's where all of the content goes. So let's just add a small amount of text within a p tag and open our file within Chrome so that we can see that everything's working. So I'm just gonna write hi. And we need to save this file, and we can tell that we need to save it because of the fact that it has this little blue dot on the tab in Atom. So if we hit Command Save, that blue dot goes away. So it's saved and it's ready to be opened within Chrome. So if you remember from last time, in order to do this, we right-click on the file and click Copy Full Path. And then we need to navigate over to Chrome. Okay, so I'm gonna right click and hit paste and enter. And awesome, we can see that everything's working, and I can see I'm in my index.html file is being displayed, and the text that I typed in within those p tags is visible. So now that we can see that, let's head back to Atom and start typing the content of our website. So we want the title of our website to be a heading of some sort. Um, as we just saw, that the paragraph text is rather small. Luckily, HTML defines heading tags for us that result in the font of the text resembling that of a heading. So at this point, I think it'd be worthwhile to introduce you guys to the topic of documentation. So on the internet, there exists loads and loads of documentation on HTML and basically all coding languages. And documentation is simply just documents that explain the language. That's how I think of it. Some of the resources that I find myself using most frequently for learning more about HTML and its elements and its elements properties are W3 Schools and MDN Docs. So let's type in HTML headings into Google Chrome and see what comes up. So if you see right here, we have W3 Schools, which is one of the resources that I really like. And then this is the other one that I really like. This developer.mozilla.org will lead you to the MDN docs. Let's click on that one. Okay, so now as you can see, we get tons of information about HTML headings, what they even are, and their properties. So the HTML H1 to H6 elements represent 6 levels of section headings. H1 is the highest section level, and H6 is the lowest. So basically, HTML has these 6 levels of headings where H1 is the biggest, and then they just get smaller and smaller in size, or some are also italicized with styling. But if you see this code right here, we have H1 Beatles, and then the code is being displayed in action here on the right. This is the output. So Beatles is the largest because it's H1, and then H2 is slightly smaller than H1, and so forth. So it's evident basically that, I know I already said this, but just to emphasize that these headings decrease in size with each increasing level, where H1 is the biggest. So let's title our website using an H1. Okay, so I'm going to delete this P tag because that was just a test, and type in H1. And I'm going to title my website Lulu's Banana Bread because my website is going to be how to make my banana bread. This can be the title of whatever activity you wish, though. Let's also add a short description as to what this website will be about, or in other words, what this recipe or these instructions are even for. And let's include that in p tags, as we want this to just be normal text. So I'm going to write, this is one of my all-time favorite recipes. I'm making it since a little Girl, it is so simple, yet so delicious. Okay, so I'm gonna hit Command Save. And remember, we downloaded a package called Atom Beautify, which makes our file look really pretty. So if you ever feel like your file's getting, the format is getting messed up, you can just go Packages, Atom Beautify, Beautify. Okay, so I'm gonna save my file, and then I'm going to go check this out in Google Chrome. Okay, so now if I hit refresh, I should see those changes. And there they are. So this title is an H1, and this is a paragraph. So we can see the difference in font and size just by the tags that we use, which is super handy. If you got this far, great job. Let's keep going. Okay, so let's add a subsection below this, what I'm going to consider the title section, that top section that we just created. I'm going to title this section What You'll Need, and I'm going to enclose that title within an H3 tag because I want it to be a few levels smaller than my main title. Here I'm going to start typing my ingredients. Let's hit save and let's see how this looks. Okay, so I'm going to refresh. So I think that looks decent. I like the size of the subsection title, but I don't think I would like how this list would look if I continued going with it. In my opinion, I think it would look better if these ingredients were perhaps listed in bullet points, just so it's a more coherent list. So if you're wondering how could we possibly do that in HTML, that's a good time to turn to documentation. So let's type in bulleted list HTML. And immediately it pulls up W3 Schools. So let's click on that documentation. And wow, that's exactly what we are looking for, an unordered HTML list. So it says HTML lists allow web authors to group a set of related items in lists. And there's two kinds, as we can see. There's the unordered and the ordered. Where the unordered, by default, its items are listed with bullet points, and in the ordered list by default, they're numbered. Let's try it out ourselves. So let's click this button just so we can play around with the code. So as you can see, the entire list is contained in UL tags, which is short for unordered list. And then each item is contained in an LI tag, which is short for list item. So I'm going to change T to bananas and click run. And as you can see, that changed this middle list item of the unordered list. So if you want, you can play around with this code and kind of get familiar with unordered lists and ordered lists. And then once you're familiar, let's navigate back to Atom and add an unordered list of our necessary ingredients or supplies for our activity. Okay, so I am going to delete these paragraphs. Instead, I'm going to add an unordered list. So those tags are going to wrap around the whole list. And then I'm going to start listing all of my ingredients. Bear with me, I think I have about 9. And notice each one goes within its own li tags. One teaspoon vanilla, dash cinnamon, 1 egg, 4 tablespoons butter, flour, almost done, 1 teaspoon baking soda, and last one, 1 teaspoon salt. Okay, so this formatting is not ideal, so let's add and beautify. Okay, much better. And then hit Command Save, and let's go check it out in Chrome. Okay, let's hit Command Refresh. And wow, I think that looks much better than just having a paragraph for each ingredient. So that is how you make an unordered list in HTML. It's really coming along. Let's add a section below this section detailing the steps of your activity. So for me, it's going to be the recipe steps. So let's go over to Atom and work on that. So I'm going to title this section What to Do. Well, actually, let's call it, so this is what you'll need. Let's call this one What, no, sorry, What to Do. Let's stick with What to Do. I'm going to keep it H3 for this subsection just to keep it consistent with the subsection heading that I chose for the one above this. I'm going to save it. So for steps, I think it makes sense to have a numbered list of some sort. So let's head back to the documentation and review how to do a numbered list. So this was the documentation that we pulled up for lists, and I think this ordered list looks perfect to me for the steps of our activity. So by nature, they are numbered already, and if we scroll down, the ordered HTML list, the ordered list is going to be entirely contained within these OL tags, which is short for ordered list, and just like the unordered list, each list item is going to be contained in the li tag. So let's implement that with the steps of our activity. Okay, so back in Atom, back in my index.html, and under my what to do heading, I'm going to create the ordered list. And I think I have about 7 steps, so this might take me a little bit, but I will type as fast as I can. Preheat the oven to 325 degrees. Remember, each list item goes within its own li tags. Melt the 4 tablespoons of butter, oops, and allow it to cool. Mash the bananas. Oh, this is a long one. Beat together the sugar, eggs, butter, vanilla, and mashed bananas using an electric mixer. Mix together ingredients. Blend together. Okay, final stretch. Definitely going to need to Atom Beautify after this. Oh, that was the last one. Okay, so all these list items are within the ordered list tags. Let's Atom Beautify and hit save. And now let's go check it out within Chrome. Okay, I'm gonna refresh. And amazing, there are all the steps of my recipe. So this is looking really good. And if you guys have gotten this far, great job. One thing that I think could benefit our website would be somehow dividing these sections a little bit more than how they are right now. I think it looks a little bit cluttered. Luckily, there is an HTML element that divides sections just as we would wish, and it is called the horizontal rule. So let's look up documentation for a horizontal rule. I'm going to exit out of these list documentations. Go horizontal. So we have Geeks for Geeks is also another good resource. W3 Schools is a good resource. Let's go to MDN Docs though, because I like that one. So it says the HTML HR element represents a thematic break between paragraph level elements. For example, a change of scene in a story or a shift of topic within a section. So here is an example of a paragraph and then horizontal rule, another paragraph. And as you can see, it just draws a line across the web page, which will work perfectly for us to divide up our sections and clean up our website a little bit. So let's head back to Atom and add some of those horizontal rules. Okay, so I'm going to add a horizontal rule between the 3 so-called sections that we have. I'm going to separate this top section. Also notice, I forgot to bring this up when we were looking at the documentation, but a horizontal rule is a self-closing tag, which means it does not need an end tag. You only need to write HR one time and it will work. So I'm going to add one right there, add a space just for visibility reasons and clarity. And I'm going to add one between these two sections. Okay, let's add Beautify and save this folder and check it out. Okay, let's refresh our file. Oh, that looks so much better. I think that makes our sections a little more clear that they're different sections. And we also got to learn about the horizontal rule element. One more section that I would like to add to this site is a contact information section, just so people can reach me with any questions that they have regarding my recipe or with photos of their finished banana bread so we can compare. So let's add that last section in Atom. Okay, so I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with an HR. So this section is clearly different from the steps section. I'm going to keep it consistent and title it with an H3. Call it Contact Me. And this is not necessary if you don't want any contact information on the web. I am going to have us publish our websites later. So if you don't want to have any contact information whatsoever out there on the internet, then you do not have to add this at all. So I'm going to write a quick blurb about what people should contact me with. I'm going to say email me photos of your finished product or with any questions regarding the recipe. And then below this, I'm going to do another paragraph with my email address. Okay, so let's save this and look at it in Chrome. I'm going to hit refresh, and there's my last section. One thing that I want to show you guys how to add is just to add an emoji. So I'm going to add one fun one down here in the Contact Me section. It's actually really easy to add emojis to HTML files. So all we need to do is go to Edit, Emoji and Symbols, and then simply click the one you want. I think I'm going to go with a chef for after or with any questions regarding the recipe, because that seems fitting. So let's save that and see what the emoji looks like in the web browser. Okay, refresh, and voila, there's the emoji. So I do still think something is missing. I think that our websites could really benefit from having a photo, perhaps of an example finished product of whatever it is you're teaching people how to do. So let's let's add photos. I'm going to pause this right now so I can grab my photo. Okay, so what you need to do is add the image you want to your project folder. So I simply just, once I got a hold of this image that I have, I actually made it this last week. So I'm just using a photo for my camera roll. But once I found that, I just dragged it into my how to site folder. Um, so now we just need to figure out how to get this image into our index.html file. So um, let's let's look at documentation to see how we can get that image into our website. Okay, let's go to HTML image element. Um, let's go to the MDN docs this time, even though it doesn't matter, and it's basically just whichever you prefer. So it says the image element embeds an image into the document. And this is really important to note. The source attribute is required and contains the path to the image you want to embed. And by path, this just means the location of the image. So say the image is within folder 3, which is within folder 2, which is within folder 1, then the image path would be folder 1 / folder 2 / folder 3 / and then the image name. Sorry, that was a tongue twister. And you always need to specify that path of where the image is so that the web browser can find the image when it's trying to render your website. Notice also that the image tag is a self-closing tag, like the horizontal rule tag was, meaning that we don't need to have an end image tag here. So basically, it seems like all we need to do is add an image tag and specify the source of the image. So let's go do that. So I think that I want the image of my banana bread at the top of my website. You can put it anywhere you want. Um, just remember that it is in it will be located on the website relative to where it is in the file. So if you put the image tag in the middle after this unordered list, then it's going to fall right after the unordered list on your website. So I want mine right at the beginning to catch people's attention. So I'm going to do image, and then, like I said, self-closing tag. We need to add the source, which goes within quotes. And because our image is at the same level as our index.html file, the path is just going to be the name of the image. If this were embedded within folders, like I said, we'd have to specify those folders and basically just tell the computer where it is. Okay, so I am going to save this and head over to Chrome to see if that worked. Okay, if your photo was anything like mine, it's insanely large. So this is what my picture looks like. So no need to worry, that's easily fixable if you're also having the same problem. And we can fix this by just tapping into the width attribute of the image element. So let's go fix that. So after playing around with it a little bit earlier, I realized that the width that I liked was about 300 pixels. So this is what I'm gonna specify. If you wanted it to be itty bitty, you could do 10 pixels. It's whatever you like. So I'm gonna save that and hope that that fixed my problem. So let's go see if it did. Okay, I'm gonna hit refresh. And that is so much better in my opinion. So if you want, you can play around with the width of your image, make it big, make it small, whatever you like. Um, I actually learned of a very cool website that crops images into circles for free from Angela Yu in her boot camp course that I took. Um, and I think this makes the image look a lot better. It also makes it look a little bit like it had some design touch to it. And the website is actually called Crop Circle dot Image Online Co. And it's entirely free, which is huge. So if you want, this isn't necessary, but if you want, you can crop your image into a circle. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna select my image, crop it, and then download it. And I will resume the video when I have the final product. Okay, so I now have my um, cropped banana bread photo cropped into a circle. I'm gonna delete this photo because I don't want it anymore. Delete, move to trash. I'm just gonna drag in my new photo into the project folder. Um, and we're almost done, but what we need to do, you can notice that the source of the image no longer matches since the photo is now called circle bee bread PNG. So we need to change the image source to that. Circle bee bread.png. Okay, let's save it and let's see what that looks like in Chrome. Okay, so I'm going to hit refresh. And voila, we have a pretty circular photo. Like I said, totally optional, but it is a cool tool that I like to use to crop my photos. Um, I think it could be slightly greater if our image was maybe on either side of this title and this description. Um, in other words, I think it could look good if the photo and the title and description were in one row together. Um, and luckily, HTML has an element called table that allows for this sort of tabular data or data that is contained in rows and columns. So once again, let's check out the documentation. Let's do HTML table. And let's check out W3 schools. So here, like I said, we can see HTML tables allow web authors to arrange data into rows and columns. And then what's important to note too is how these work. Each table row is defined with TR tag, short for table row. The header, if you want a header, that would correspond to this bolded first row in this example, would be within a TH tag. And then within the table row tags, entering in the data, which would be these names, for example, entering in each of those, they would each go inside of a table data tag. So let's go to try it yourself so we can see it and play with it. So ignore this top section. Let's go down to HTML table. So you see we have the table tag, which goes around the entire thing. And then each row has an enclosing TR tag. And this row corresponds to the header row. And then here's the first row that corresponds to the content. As you can see, the data gets entered from left to right. So this is kind of how you create your columns. So if each row has 3 data entries, then you're going to have 3 total columns, if that makes sense. If you want, you can play with this, change any of the words to whatever you want, mess around, maybe delete a row. Let's see if we let's delete a row actually, and run. So if you see, I just got rid of an entire row. So go ahead and play with that. And let's take use of this table element to put our image and our heading in one row together. Okay, so within this first section, I'm gonna create a table. And like I said, we're gonna have our image and then we're gonna have this H1 and P tag. So we have 2 columns or 2 data entries. And depending on where you put or where you want your image on the left or the right, that determines where you or when you would enter in the image. So if you wanted it on the left, it would be the first data entry as the entries get outputted left to right. Or if you want it on the right, you would put it after the H1 and P. So we have the table tags, and then we need to create a table row. We only need one table row because we're just basically making this top section into one row. I think I want my image on the left, so I'm going to cut this, place it there, and then I'm gonna do another table cell and put my H1 and paragraph within that. I'm going to hit save. I'm also going to Atom Beautify, save again, and then check this out in Chrome. Okay, so let's hit refresh. And wow, I think that looks really good. That looks a little more like a real website, and like it has a little bit better flow. One thing that's bothering me is how close these are together. So let's make one quick edit to fix that. And I think we should also address the fact that we haven't titled our website within the head section of our HTML file. So it just says index.html on the tab. So let's fix that as well. Okay, so in order to add a little spacing, we can tap into the cell spacing property of a table. And I played with it and I liked the look of 40 pixels. So I'm going to add that there. And then the last thing that we said we needed to do is give a title to our website, which is displayed on the tab. So I'm just going to call mine um, Lulu's banana. And actually, I'm going to edit this title to how to make Lulu's banana bread and see if that looks okay, just so it's a little more descriptive. But like I said, hopefully this is whatever activity of your choice and um, information tailored to you. Okay, let's save it and hopefully check out our finished HTML file. Okay, let's hit refresh. And wow, it's looking so good. So as you can see, this spacing spreads these table cells apart a little bit. We have a title on our tab. I like this more descriptive title that I just last minute changed. We have our ingredients or whatever supplies you need, whatever instructions you want to give, and if you want, um, you can add your contact information. You can add emojis anywhere you like. But other than that, I think that is it for our index.html file. Great job, guys. Let's head back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so I just want to recap those new topics that we just covered because we covered a lot. Um, in creating that how-to site, we learned a ton of useful skills and gained more knowledge about HTML elements. We covered headings for our section titles, lists for our ingredients slash supplies and steps sections, horizontal rules to separate our sections, the insertion of emojis, the insertion of images, and also tables. However, though our coding is done, there is one last step to get our site up and running. And this is publishing our websites. We still need to publish it. As of right now, your website is just an index.html file on your local computer. And what we want is for these to be accessible online. And how to do this is by publishing it. There are a lot of ways to publish websites actually, and I've attached a link in the notes of this slide that you guys can access through the drive if you want to learn more about it. But we're going to use, or I'm going to show you how to use a platform called GitHub to do so, which is one option. So what even is GitHub? GitHub is a development platform. I think it's one of the most incredible inventions. It allows people to collaborate on code bases with super crazy good technology, for lack of a better description. If you end up becoming a developer, however, it's very, very, very likely that you'll use GitHub or a platform that does what GitHub allows, because it allows you to work on code together with other employees at the company. And which obviously that's not useful for us right now, but GitHub also has a feature called GitHub Pages, which is its hosting service. And hosting service is just, that just means that it provides the service of enabling your files to be viewed on the internet. And if you don't already have a GitHub account, you will need to make one. So let's head over to GitHub, and I'll also link GitHub's website in the notes of this slide for reference. Okay, so here is GitHub's landing page. If you don't already have an account, you can sign up for one now. The great thing is that it is free. Um, if you'd like to make your website live and you want to do so using GitHub, then that's what the account could be used for. Um, if you don't, then also no worries, but I will show you how to get your website up and running and have a link that you can share with other people through using GitHub. I'm going to pause the video and sign in to my account. Okay, so now at this point, we should all be logged into our GitHub accounts. And what I want you to do is find the new repository button. So for me, it is right here, repositories new. So I'm gonna click that. And basically a repository is just like a folder on the internet where all the files for your website can be stored. So you can call it whatever you want, but I'm gonna stick with the theme of how to um, cite. Description's optional. Make sure it's public, and then um, we do want to initialize it with a README. A README is just a file that tells people what the project's about. It's sort of like documentation for your website. So let's create the repository. Okay, awesome. So now the only file that exists in this repository is the README file. So what we want to do is we want to upload files. So we can just easily drag files. So you will most likely want to navigate to your project folder, wherever that may be. I'm attempting to do that right now. And drag in all of the folders or all of the files within your project folder. So it's uploading one of two files. You should also have two files, just your index.html file and your image. And so adding files to your repository is called committing them. It's basically like, I commit these changes and I want them to show up. So let's call this our initial commit. And you can add a description if you want, not necessary, but just so you remember what you did. That's normally what these descriptions are for, describing the commit just for yourself and for your own sake. And we want to commit directly to the master branch. And then let's hit commit changes. And computer is a little slow right now. Awesome. So now those files are all uploaded in my repository. So that's great and all, but we still don't have a live running website. What we need to do is we need to go to settings and scroll down to GitHub Pages, that feature that I was talking about. And you can see GitHub Pages is designed to host your personal, organization, or project pages from a GitHub repository. So we just made the repository and it has our files. So now we want GitHub Pages to host that, or basically make it available on the internet. So by default, the source is set to none, but if we set it to master branch, which is what we just committed those files to, then GitHub should be creating a link for you. So as you can see, GitHub just, if you refresh, it says your site is ready to be published at, and then it gives you a link. So it should be your username.github.io and then the repository name. let's see if you refresh again. We want it to have a green check. Awesome. So that means it's published. Um, so now I could right click on this, copy link address, and this should be a functioning link. And there it is. As you can see, it's an HTTP link. So it's just like any other website, it's live and running. Um, so that is how you host your website and publish it. Now let's head back to the slides. Congratulations on creating your first live websites. Even if you didn't code along and you just watched, thank you for watching. I would also love to see any finished sites, or if anything was wrong with the video and you have any questions at all, feel free to email me with either, and I'll include my email within the notes of this slide. And just one last reminder that the slides will be uploaded to the Drive, so you can access all those links and my email through there. Okay, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your week.